I'm looking at the road, not even looking at my phone, not even once. So I have this epiphany and I want to share and talk this out with you real quick about if you have somebody in your life who is mistreating you or treating you bad, hurting your feelings, or somebody who is saying that you're mistreating them or hurting their feelings, or you even hear about somebody else who is always mistreating other people. Well, although there is very real cases of mistreatment, I want to point out something and clarify something that might help you tremendously, because this epiphany is helping me, and this is my life's goal, is to help eliminate suffering by understanding it in myself and the misconceptions of being a human and the ego, and just how sensitive we are as human beings and how we misinterpret things. So I'm gonna get right into this. So I'm kind of beginning to understand why some people will give a bunch of disclaimers before they talk about a subject like this, to the point where you're saying, why don't you just get to the point already? It's because if you just get right into it, it could trigger your ego, and then you go into a defensive state without disclaiming first exactly what you mean by saying what you mean and what you don't mean. Then you can get more clear, so what you're saying isn't being misinterpreted. Communication. So sometimes somebody who's treating other people like shit, that word right there might be a misidentification or an accusation that's not true. Now, there are people who actually do treat other people like shit. There are people who are malicious in this world, all the way down that rabbit hole. But I would like to say, for the most part, when somebody is being accused of mistreating or controlling other people, or being a narcissist, a control freak, hurting other people's feelings, talking down, naming, blaming, shaming, chastising, berating, sometimes that person who's doing that to others, sometimes they're not even aware that they're doing it. They're just suffering themselves. They're in a really bad mood, or they're going through some trauma or suffering or unresolved issues, and that person is going through suffering, and because they're in such a low vibration and such a defensive state that they feel like they're being attacked, or they're terrified of abandonment and they're scared. Now, if they're an adult, then obviously it's not their fault what happened to them and their lives, but it is their responsibility to grow out of it and grow from it and becoming a more mature human being. And real quick side note, one time I was in a really, really just frustrated, pissed off mood in my landscaping business, and I had months of unhappiness in my business, and there was this period where lots of customers were, I might have been projecting this, but it seemed like they're just being rude and selfish. When you're a contractor, you do run into a lot of selfish customers who don't even consider you to be a human being. They just want to know what they can get out of you for the whatever price they seem fair. And if you're not speaking their language, they don't want to hear it. And when you vibrate to a higher dimension or whatever, you can actually eliminate most of that stuff just by vibrating higher. So I was co-contributing to that problem. But there was a time when I don't know what I said or how I said it. It was just my way of being, was kind of mean to a customer once. I jumped the gun a little quickly, and I was just being defensive, right? And then after I got off the phone with the customer or whatever, I was really upset and ashamed and disappointed in myself, saying, oh my God, that customer didn't deserve that. Just because all these other customers had mistreated me or been mean to me, I took that out on one customer. And I maybe have done that once or twice in my small business career, because the pain and realization of doing it afterwards was like, oh my God, here's was the realization. No matter how I'm feeling or what I'm going through, that person didn't deserve for me to be defensive with them, or that person didn't deserve that. So just because you're going through a hard time gives you no right to go and mistreat, or I'm sorry, I'm parked now. Just because you're going through a hard time gives you no reason or excuse to hurt somebody else or to be mean to them, right? But another thing is, you could be going through a very hard time and you're just miserable and in a bad mood, and you're not trying to be mean to anybody, but the people closest to you, that even people that live with you, they might feel like you're being mean to them, but you're not being mean to them at all. For real, you're actually not even being mean to them. Maybe you're just cold and quiet because you're going through suffering, and then they want to pick a fight with you because they think that you're mad at them. And it's like, I'm not mad at you. I'm just going through a hard time right now. And then, no, you're mad at me. You're mistreating me. You're treating me like shit. I'm not treating you like shit. I'm just really upset about this thing in my business. No, you're mad at me. I'm not mad at you. I'm just going through a hard... And then they will make it about them and then flip it around and spin it around. And then this goes both ways, right? Somebody else can be mad and upset, and then you think that they're mean at you and being mean to you and mistreating you, but really you're just misinterpreting that they're just upset, right? So because they're upset, every little tiny thing that you do can get underneath their skin like a hair trigger. And because you're the closest person to them, you receive the butt end or the brunt end or whatever you call it of their suffering. They're just suffering, maybe even for an hour of suffering, right? They're going through traumatic, they're playing a story out in their head, and they're emotionally dripping dopamine, cortisol. So the reason I'm stuttering is because this is triggering me when I talk about it, because I haven't mastered this at all yet. But here's what I'm talking about, is the misidentification and making the distinction that sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's not them. Allowing and loving a person to be upset and be in a bad mood or be miserable without letting any of their stuff affect you, and being able to stay with them in love and be close to them and wear their anger like a coat is, I think, one of the most powerful things that you can do. That is maturity, it's wisdom, it's to stay in a place of love. And you know what, you might be a loving, caring, conscious, wise, understanding, empathic being, and with somebody who's suffering, who has maybe even drug or alcohol addiction, I don't know, and they're suffering so badly that they're lashing out on you and treating you like shit, and they actually love you, and they don't even mean to treat you bad. They're not even aware that they're doing it at that level. They're just hurting so bad. And if you can actually stay with them, now you should accept any type of abuse, I'm talking, that's a different thing, but a higher form of love is like unconditional love, where you love them through it, and you're there by their side. Now, this is a fine line between not accepting abuse and not... You get what I'm saying here? Like, I had a friend, one of my best friends was an alcoholic who drank himself to death. The last few months of his life, he treated me like total shit. He was calling me, and I don't want to, just because he's not here, I don't want to say, but he was saying things to me that were threatening. Well, I could just take it there. Like, I couldn't believe that this stuff was coming out of my friend's mouth. He had gone to a dark place. And so I stayed away from him for the past few months because he was so toxic that it was scary. And I don't even know if I have the strength, but if I did, I would be able to stay on the phone and argue with him through it. I'd say, this is bullshit. Don't you talk to me like this. We've been friends for this long. What's going on? I'm coming to get you right now. You know, pull the bottle out of his hand, take him out to lunch, and go argue it out type shit. Anyways, you get what I'm saying here?